What's going on, my fellow Belmonts? It's the Mad Belmont of the Super Retro Force here today, and in this video, I am going to be talking about 6, count them 6, Castlevania games that you should play if you are new to the series, okay? And I am doing 6 here because I'm going to do 2 from each era of the franchise. 2 Classicvania games, 2 Metroidvania games, and 2 3D-vania games. All of these games, I think, are games that you should play if you are new to this series and you're kind of wanting to get your bearings with all of the different eras and what do I think newcomers should play from each era. So let's get right into it, shall we? Let's start with the 2 Classicvania games that I think you should play. First up here for the Classicvanias, and it is, of course, the original Castlevania from 1987. This game is absolutely picture perfect for someone that is wanting to get into the franchise and that wants that classic gameplay, that classic 2D action platforming goodness. If you do not mind the fact that this is an 8-bit game, if you do not mind the fact that this is a simple game, because this is the first game in the franchise, then you're going to feel right at home here. I think that this is the perfect place for people to start because it is the start of it all. All the most important aspects of this franchise started right here in this first game. So if you are going to introduce yourself to this series, then by all means play this game first. But if you're not a fan of 8-bit graphics, if you prefer more 16-bit graphics, well then I've got the perfect introductory game for you in this style. And that game is Super Castlevania IV. This game is yet another valid entry point into the Castlevania series. This is a reimagining of the first game, and it is also a pretty good starting point because there's no story attachment or anything to any of the previous games. This is a neutral starting point because it is a reimagining of the first game. That's why Simon is back in here, is because it's basically the first game, but on steroids, because the levels are bigger, there's more levels in this game than there are in the original one, and also the music's better, the graphics are better, basically everything's better. Even the controls are better in 4 than they were in 1. And keep in mind, the controls in 1 are pretty freaking awesome, but here in 4, it's perfection to me. Like, I love this game. I think that this is the best Classicvania game. I've been saying this for years, and there's evidence of that on my channel. If you go back and look at some of my oldest videos, you'll find one where I make a case for it. But yeah, I think that this is a really, really valid entry point into the Castlevania franchise, and if you do decide to make this your first one, then I wish you nothing but the best. But now we move on into the next era of Castlevania, which is the Igavania era of the franchise, or Metroidvanias if you really want to call them that. And this era started in 1997 with the game that you're seeing on the screen right now, which is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And yes, I am going to recommend this game to newcomers, and it's pretty simple. It's because this game is freaking phenomenal. It's my favorite game of all time, and I think that this is a very valid entry point, simply because if you don't like that old school style of Classicvania, the 2D action platforming side of things, if you like a little bit more complexity to your platformers with the RPG mechanics and getting abilities to go and explore different areas, if you like that open exploration, if you're a fan of Metroidvanias, then you owe it to yourself to play Symphony of the Night here, because if you're a fan of Metroidvanias, this game more than likely inspired one of your favorite Metroidvanias. So you owe it to yourself to educate yourself on where whatever game you like, Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, Last Faith, whatever, got its inspiration from. You owe it to yourself to play this game. But if you do not want to do that, that's fine. You don't have to do that. But I do have another game from this era that I think is just as valid as a starting point as any of the other games that I mentioned, and that game I'm going to talk about right now, which is Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. This game is one of the GBA games, Game Boy Advance games, and it is easily the best of that entire trilogy. This game has one of the best stories in the entire Castlevania franchise. I'm not even kidding on that. And I know that there's a lot of people out there in the fan base that can agree with me on that, because Soma Cruz's story in this game is so intriguing, so deep, so complex. Love this story. Now, I have not seen the true ending of the game just yet. I have seen the bad, quote-unquote, ending, but I am working on getting the true ending of the game. I'm also going to play the sequel, Dawn of Sorrow, on the DS, so I can get a complete picture on the story here. But so far, what I've played of this game is absolutely awesome. I cannot wait to experience more of this game. And also, I think that this is a perfect starting point, especially if you're someone who is into good storytelling in games. This is definitely one that you will want to get into. I would start talking about the story and what makes it so interesting, but if I do, I know how I am. I'm going to start going into spoiler territory, and I do not want to spoil anything for you. But for those of you who have played this game that are watching this video, tell people how good that storyline is in the comments below. Don't spoil it for them, of course, but back me up here. Back me up, please. Now we move on into the 3D era of the series, and of course the two games that I feel are the best for this era of the franchise are on the exact same system, and actually are part of the same generation of consoles. And we are starting off with Castlevania Lament of Innocence on the PS2. This game is so good, okay? Because it is basically the closest thing that we are ever going to get to a fully 3D Symphony of the Night. It's made by the exact same team. It has a great origin story for the Belmont clan. It has amazing environments, good variety of enemies, combat feels good, music is great as usual in the franchise, and if you're someone that prefers 3D gaming over 2D gaming, this is the perfect place for you to start with. Final game I'm going to be talking about here on this list is Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Yes, I'm talking about the other PS2 game, because the PS2 games, Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness, are some of the most underrated games in the franchise, and Curse of Darkness is no exception. It is a direct sequel to Castlevania III Dracula's Curse, and it plays differently from Lament of Innocence, where Lament of Innocence is mostly a close to being a 3D Metroidvania that we are ever going to get. You have Curse of Darkness here, which, yes, it does have some exploration, but not as much as Lament of Innocence, and the gameplay is slightly different, because you play as Hector, a Devil Forge master, and in this game, I've heard it be called a DMC clone, because it's an action-y hack and slash type of game, and yeah, I get that comparison, because it definitely is super action-packed. There is a combo system. It does get pretty crazy later in the game when you learn more combos and you learn more complex combos. So, I get that. But, yeah, this game is great. The story is phenomenal in this game, as well as in Lament of Innocence. And I think that this game is honestly one of the games that you can start with, and still go back and play the other games, just like all the other games I've mentioned on this list, because, yeah, sure, the gameplay is different from all the other games that I've mentioned here before, but it still has that look, it still has that Castlevania feel to it, and you can sit here and play this game and not have played any of the other ones and have just as good of a time with this game as you can with any of the other games I've mentioned on this list and any of the ones that I haven't mentioned on this list. So that is why I have to mention Castlevania Curse of Darkness here. Last, but certainly not least. And those are the 6 best experiences that I feel, anyway, are the best for newcomers to the franchise from all different eras of Castlevania. What do you think about my list? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Is there games that I missed there? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'd love to discuss it with you. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please go down here and hit the like button. That shows YouTube that you liked it, that you enjoyed it. Also, if you're new around here, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's not too far away from the like button. And if you do, and then you ring that little bell icon next to it, you won't miss an upload from me. And I upload every single Monday at noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? Also, while you're down there hitting that like and subscribe button, I am, as I mentioned in the intro, a member of the Super Retro Force, a group of awesome content creators that are here bringing you retro gaming goodness. And we have a team channel as well as individual channels for every single member of the team. All of that stuff is down there in the description. So if you like my content and you feel like checking the other guys on the team out, hey, it's right down there in the description. So with all that being said, remember, have fun on the hunt, my fellow Belmonts. I'll see you in the next video, and peace out.
Super Retro Force.